Barbara. But
No way,
cool.
no way, no way, no way.
Awesome. Cool.
That would be
Cool.
funny
Cool.
though.
So we are going live. Guys, hey everyone. Hi Stanislav. Hi Carol. Hi Ivan. Hi everyone watching us live on either LinkedIn or YouTube. We are going to kick off this live stream and we will focus on the hiring mistakes. And I'm here today with people who have a lot to say about hiring mistakes. It's really unbelievable if you see under the hood of what both Stanislav and Karol went through over the last years. I mean, they grew the technical teams from literally zero to huge departments. So we are going to learn also from their experience, and Ivan will also share experience from the clients that they work with at Deal. So we are also here thanks to Deal that is sponsoring this episode. So thanks a lot, Ivan, for joining us. Cool. So I think we can slowly kick it off, and people will be joining us on both LinkedIn and YouTube. So why don't we kick it off with you, Stanislav, Stano. I mean, it's written Stanislav, but I'm always used to say Stano because that's how we shorten this here in Slovakia, right? And you live these days in the Czech Republic. You are from Slovakia, so we know each other for quite some time. And today you will be talking about some of the learnings from your end, right? You are the CTO at Kiwi. You've been working at Kiwi for quite a lot of years. I think it's been 7 years by now. Yeah, and
And
yeah. So you have a lot of insights. So in the next 10 minutes or so, you will walk us through a few insights, right? And you will tell us more about what are the takeaways, what are the challenges, and I'm sure there are some kind of obvious insights, but the audience will be especially interested in learning more about the stories behind the decision making and what it is like to actually manage a department of 500 people. So stage is yours, and yeah, thanks for being here.
thank you, Michal. Thank you, everyone. And hello. I'm so excited to be here and kick off this podcast or streaming session with all of you. As Michal mentioned, so very quick introduction of myself. I've been at Kiwi for 9 years, actually, not 7. So it's quite a long time and maybe very unusual in tech field. However, I was coming into the company as a software engineer back in 2015 when the company had something like 20 people all together. So along the way, I was engineer and I was manager through the VP towards the CTO. Hiring was one of the most crucial skill we had to develop as a company, and I had to develop myself because this is really important for everyone working in tech field. So whether it's individual contributor and you are looking for the right colleague to your team and you are trying to look for people you can learn from, or is it from managerial perspective when you are focusing also about like smart people you can learn from, but your team success is heavily dependent on the team composition and the talent you are having in. During COVID times, I also had nice opportunity to lead the recruitment at Kiwi.com, technical recruitment at Kiwi.com, which is pretty unusual, I would say, for tech person to lead the, let's say, HR sub department. But it was during COVID, and as you can imagine, we as a travel company had quite challenging situation of getting and retaining new talent as travel was kind of declining or everyone was kind of locked down at home. However, on the other side, the retails and e-commerce were spiking. So getting new fresh talent into company was crucial for me. Nevertheless, I saw the company growing from like 10 engineers in one old villa in Brno to a couple of hundreds across the Europe. And I'm really happy to share like a couple of not just mistakes, but also lessons learned and opportunities. Like how would I do that maybe better if I would be in my shoes like couple of years back. As we were growing this like incredibly fast, very soon in the startup mode, we reached the point of like discussing we should have yet another office. We started in Brno in Czechia, and I mean, talent pool was here as well as so on. That's great. By the way, the city is great for the talent. However, if you need to scale like really, really fast, locking yourself for the one city or one location is not really the option, or it's an option if you want to go slow. So we decided to go and have people which are remote, which are hybrid, and so on. And that's the actually first topic I would love to cover. We were having like remote people even before it was cool. So not saying that there wasn't like any remote before, but I can remember us setting up the software or having the video calls and so on. We try like I would say like 5 different ones, even forgotten brands like High Five, to try to enable this like cooperation. But it was kind of fun making this decision and trying to like get people very very like connected and useful for like each other. I can remember we try even some like techniques like window to remote office. So we had one iPad in some room, and we just can say hello when we were walking by the table of somebody else. So it was really really fun and a good mood. Um, what I would love to say here is that as we were like Brno centric back then or headquarters centric back then, a lot of conversation uh, have happened at the corridors while we had the coffee, while we were discussing something, writing on the whiteboard, and so on and so forth. We soon realized when we had like first remote person, our first remote people, that this doesn't scale and people are losing a lot of context. So therefore we try this like kind of periodical session, the window to the remote office, and so on and so forth. What we realized along the way, it's quite an interesting fact that the the pure remote, when you have the office, is pretty difficult or pretty challenging, mainly for the person who is remote. Getting all of the context, especially in the environment and everything's changing so quickly, it's it's challenging, I would say, and it's difficult for them. So the key point here is to create the environment or create the procedures and trying to get the team on the same pace that we would be able to have common ceremonies and we would be able to collaborate professionally. And this is very, very important. And it's different company by company. So it's not purely about having good webcam, having good streaming technology or software, but having also the culture ready for remote workers. What we realize at the end is that usually where are we looking at the remote people, we are looking for mostly for the individual contributors, senior one, which are not required a lot of like overseeing, are capable to work autonomously and have like good social skills and technical skills to be always like connected with the branch or with the headquarters. So long story short, no knowledge sharing is something what definitely you need to be focusing on and trying to make as best environment for that as possible. So maybe the advice or like long story short of the saying is, if you are like having full remote setup in your organization and everything works, good for you, congratulations, you are like one of the very few companies that this is working. If not, choose wisely who you are accepting for a remote job. And it's not about the CV and seniority of the people or the specific candidate, since usually they are great, right? But it's about also the physical presence and how the candidate or how the person would feel in this setup, and if it would be okay for them to work like that, if it wouldn't be causing them some difficulties, and so on. So always think about that from the both sides, prepare the environment. Don't think just about the advantages, but also from the cons of the having the remote job if you are scaling up the company.
Yeah. And in your case, actually, it must be even more difficult because you have this hybrid mode where some people work at the office and some people work remotely, right? And we will talk with Carol in a while about remote first company and fully distributed, which probably it's easier at some point. So you mentioned the iPads and everything to make it easier for people to connect. Are there some other events or activities that actually helped you guys to bridge the gap between people who work remotely or self-hybrid, partially hybrid mode, and people who come to the office? Are there actually people who come to the office every day?
Yes, I think so. We have actually many people who is for which the setup is better. I think the people landed initially like after COVID to some mode like office available. So when they feel comfortable and they can commute, they are like ready and happy to go to the office, since those interactions and interpersonal relationships are super important even in the work environment, of course. But as you were asking about the activities and some kind of like other techniques, of course, we try to like have people together whenever it's possible. So either it's some like whole company events, or it's mostly about or also the like team building events and this kind of stuff. That's working. And the ceremonies and the processes in the company must be set accordingly, that it allows you to work in that mode. So the decision must be documented, and everything should be basically written down, ready for the, let's say, offline synchronization and offline communication. And this goes towards the culture. But I'm trying to like describe the mode when you had the startup and everyone is working during the night on building something great in low amount of people, versus if you are need to scale it up and like repeat, let's say, same efficiency for the scaled team. So that's something definitely what is important.
Yeah, awesome. And if you were to start again a new company from scratch, or you joined a smaller company with just 5 people and you had the opportunity to change it completely from scratch, like what would you do? Would you go remote first? Would you go office first? Would you go only office work? Would you go hybrid? What would you do?
For now, I mean, it really depends on the talent I would need. So it's about it's about what kind of people I'm going to look for. But my personal preference is office available. I think, as I can see, this fits a lot of people either here in Brno or other like KiwiCom locations. That people can meet here, can work together if they need to. There's still some kind of like hackathons, ways of working if they need to deliver something fast. But on the other hand, if they need to spend time at home for whatever reason, they are always welcomed and they can always have it.
Awesome. Well, it also, as you say, depends on the talent. I mean, if you need some very specific AI machine learning engineers, then you probably need to tap on the talent that is abroad as well.
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. So we may get back to also some of these insights that you were talking about, and we can probably follow up with Karol on his insights about working with remote first talents, which is a smaller company, right? Smiley, compared to Kiwi with 2,000 employees. So Karol, what are your key insights from building the company literally from scratch and getting it to a stage where you have a fully distributed team working in a very productive manner? What are the key insights and lessons learned?
Hi everyone, and I'm really glad to be here, especially that remote work is something that I'm really passionate about. And I joined Booking, like Smiley, formerly BookingSync, and back then when it was BookingSync as a early senior engineer, and I was eventually promoted to CTO, and we've been working remotely from the very beginning in the remote async distributed setting. And honestly, remote work has been something that I've been doing from the very beginning. So a fun fact is that I've never really worked in the office in the long run. So my entire world pretty much is working remotely. But I've had a chance to speak also with a lot of people who had been working both in the office and remotely, and there were like very interesting insights that I've gotten, like both from these conversations and also from my own experience throughout my entire career. So as great as going remote is, with its opportunities and flexibility and potential to build amazing culture, it's also something that makes it easier for you to shoot yourself in the foot and make some serious mistakes that might deeply impact your teams and the entire business overall. And some of these mistakes are actually quite common. So maybe let's focus and try to pick top 3 of them. The first one would be something that I would call a remote bubble. So let me explain what I mean by this. After working years in a remote environment and experiencing all of its benefits, we sometimes tend to forget that we might have experienced some challenges initially, yet for years it's been so amazing and smooth that we forget that remote is not necessarily for everyone, and that would be mostly for two reasons. The first one is pretty straightforward, as it's really about personality. Some people just need more human interaction and spend face-to-face time with their coworkers and have basically this together time, or they just feel bad and sometimes literally freak out in the long run. And it doesn't mean that they are bad people or anything like this. It's just personal preference, and it's great that we are all different and have different preferences and can find an environment that will be great for us. And the second one is immediate environment. And this happens to people who might be a great fit actually to thrive in a remote team, but they cannot be productive enough due to their, immediate environment. So imagine working in a small department with two small kids and your spouse also working remotely. I mean, really good luck with trying to be productive in the long run with all these distractions. Or maybe even having own office in your home, but being unable to set proper boundaries and getting constantly distracted by family members instead of going, for example, to a co-work space instead. And let's not even start about working in public loud places, because this is even trickier environment to be really productive. And this is really something that needs to be assessed during job interview. And the takeaway would be that we just cannot go with the flow and assume that everyone is a perfect match for a remote position, because this has been like our experience and the experience of our team. The second one would be under communication and maybe even more lack of access to the information. And this especially is important when working in the async environment especially with just a few hours of overlap between the team members. So not having an answer to a question might mean, in that case, a delay of getting something done by even 1 day, because the other person who knows something might not be just around the corner to answer the question that would be more typical for like synchronous office environment. And it matters quite a lot, especially when bringing new people to your team. So making sure that the information is easily available is critical, as well as ensuring it's something easy to consume for the team members. So for example, summary notes from the meetings would be super valuable compared to just having like a transcript without any context or a video recording. I mean, you can generate the summary by AI, but without the context about the company and the actual meeting, sometimes it's like really hit or miss, especially if it confuses the word friends with friends, which happened to me, and I had a really good laugh from reading the summary of one of the meetings. And also text documentation is great, but sometimes maybe a videos would do a much better job to explain some concepts. So really the ease of consuming the information, even when it's available, is something definitely worth considering. And the third one would be hiring only within a single country. So one of the greatest benefits of having a remote environment is that you are not limited to hiring people from your, let's call it, immediate environment. So for example, like the city where you are based at and like the neighboring areas. In that case, if you are willing to hire people from other cities, why would you limit yourself to hiring only within that single country? Like, especially if you are to some extent distributed. And especially if you have issues with filling available positions fast enough with great candidates, which even in the current job market could be the issue for more senior positions. So if you want to make sure that you hire the best possible people you can, expanding beyond a single country can really make a huge difference here. And I believe that would be like the top 3 mistakes that are really often the case.
This is really interesting when you say hiring from one country. And which country have you chosen? Is it Poland?
We have a lot of developers from Poland, but we are really not limiting ourselves to like a
Mhm.
single country. Like even if someone is from Poland, it's not unusual
Mhm.
for them to like to travel like around Asia or like whatever else.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, indeed, the world is huge if you kind of think about it this way, right? The people can work from different destinations. And Stan, also you at Kiwi, you work with people from I think Spain as well, right? Slovakia, Czech Republic. So how you look at actually engaging with people from different countries? Do you have any preferred destinations? Are software engineers kind of better, so to speak, from certain destinations? What is your experience?
Yes, so all the countries you named, plus Croatia and Slovenia. So we have a couple of like these hubs across the Europe, plus multiple location like on the pure like remote working. In my view, it's really about the specific talent you are looking for. So this is always good to see, because if you say like software engineers, it might mean something for let's say Java applications for the banks, and something else for the embedded devices and IoT networks, right? So it's very challenging to find something or generalize that some location is better at software engineering or not. But however, I think the good signs might be some bigger hubs of the bigger companies. So be it established companies like Microsoft, Meta, and so on. Also presence of the local like universities, which is capable to getting the new junior talent on the market and groom it, right? So that's always very important. But nevertheless, I think across the Europe we are very competitive in quality compared to the US and the other location as well. As at least from my experience, I think we are really on pair here with US, and that's also visible why many US big companies, Fortune 500 companies, are creating their branches across the Europe.
Yeah. Interesting. And now, as you are talking about these different countries, there is one thing that people often also wonder. Are software engineers better in the Balkan countries? Are they better in Slovakia, Czech Republic? Are there better software engineers or higher quality engineers? Or what's the value for money in different countries? Are there any such trends that you noticed over time since you have so many people in the department?
I was reading a couple of the studies actually around that. One of the studies in past, I would say it was like 4 years ago, showed, it was from Google if I'm not mistaken, that the mid Europe is really best on the ratio value for the money, like quality for the money. So I think that's something what I can definitely relate to. But this is like very generic, research trying to work in with the averages. So therefore, I'm saying that really looking at the specific talent is much more important. Otherwise, we are having like good engineers from all of the locations you mentioned. So it's rather about picking the I would say picking the countries mostly like legal stuff and strategic stuff rather than individual talents. So individual talents can be located wherever.
Yeah, awesome. Carol, and based on your experience, if you think about engaging software developers, obviously there are different strategies that one can deploy, right? Hiring top talent, or hiring kind of anyone who fits a certain budget, or hiring people to work remotely from, Asian countries to cut the costs. What is your hiring strategy? How do you think about getting people on the team?
So I personally don't limit myself like to like any time zone, any country, like any specific continent. We have a list of we have a vision of who we want to hire, and wherever that person is located, if it's Asia, US, or within Europe, it really doesn't matter. We also don't have different compensation package between the countries. We just assume that a value delivered by someone is is basically a value, and we regardless where someone is located, we don't also like try to like either pay more for someone who lives in the country with the higher cost of living and pay lower for the whoever is living in the country with a cheaper cost of living. So
Yeah.
for us, it's like very, let's call it like very even. We care about the end results, and we don't really care about like unimportant details.
Yeah, awesome. Stano, and some people say, hey, we only hire A players, top 1% of engineers on the planet. That's obviously challenging to find these people and to pay them. Of course, the company needs to have budget for that. So how do you even think about this? Obviously, this is something that a lot of people probably want, but most of us cannot really afford to have world-class A players on team. I was, by the way, just today reading an article that Google paid $2.4 billion for someone who wrote some article to actually get back to Google. I mean, it's just crazy if you think about it, right? $2 billion for some acqui-hire. So what is your strategy? Do you kind of hire someone who is available on the market, or do you wait for those A players? How do you approach this?
Yeah. Okay, so 2.5 billion for A players is probably too much for everyone but Google, I would say.
Yeah.
The strategy with the A players, okay, it's written in every other book. It's written in the Netflix culture, and there is this like common saying that A players hiring A players and so on and so forth. I really believe in the value of the A players. It goes to the definition. There's no something like you can say that by the CV. So you can be A player for company A and you might be C player for company B with the same skill and same attitude, same communication techniques, and so on you are having. So it's very important to rightly define what do you need and where it makes sense. And in my view, I would say I'm speaking for like many managers in the company. It's easier to manage less but more skilled persons rather than huge pool of, let's say, average people. And this is something what we obviously would like to have in the company, and this is still the strategy. There's one nitpick to that, and those are like junior people. I think it's pretty important to have in the long run some ability to groom the talent internally, not just picking the top players of the market. I think the strategy might not be working in the long run. Right now, we can see with AI and so on, many companies are closing for the junior position and so on. I would say it's good, maybe tactical move, just to getting better people from the market. However, in the long run, it might be very tricky in some locations just to close the doors and not utilize junior people properly.
Interesting. Well, I'll share this link somewhere in the comments, and I'll also send it to you guys on WhatsApp, just to see what is possible, kind of in some companies when it comes to these A players. But yeah, as you say, I mean, there are different options and different strategies to deploy it at some point. But thinking of different strategies and different approaches, Ivan, you are also in touch with quite a lot of companies from different regions, right? And you've seen some challenges and some potential mistakes that people make when it comes to hiring software engineers remotely. So would you like to tell us a bit more about what those mistakes are and how to overcome these challenges?
Michal, thanks very much for the opportunity, and thanks to Stano, if I may, and Karo for the great examples. It kind of makes me wonder, whenever we talk to customers, everybody has only A players. I'm just wondering where all the B and C players went, because nobody is employing them anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of a fun little trend that I'm seeing in the market. But I guess kind of overall, the theme that we see from the deal perspective, so not the client side, but the vendor side, is certain things have changed. Technology certainly has evolved. Requirements have evolved. They've become more and more niche, and there's a scarcity of really capable and skilled resources. But it's really the same thing. Everybody still wants top talent. So that's the main premise behind Deal, whereby we say you shouldn't limit yourself to be it a city, be it a country, be it a continent. If talent is there for the taking, you should be able to employ them in whichever fashion makes sense for both parties. So essentially, that's what we do as an end-to-end HR platform. We allow you to hire and, of course, to pay people. And of course, manage them, which is probably the least fun part when you're talking about thousands of developers that are reporting into you. But it needs to be done. It has to be done. For sure, this is one of the main questions that keeps coming up is, as fun as it is to find talent and identify them and try to attract them and to bring them on board, it's a cost question as well. So especially at large scale, when we talk to companies, we know, and that's what we hear, is that it's the simple things that are very hard to find answers to. So for example, I have a fully distributed remote workforce. What is the cost? What is the fully loaded cost? And then what is the cost split between my contractors working on a specific project versus my full-time employees, my full-time developers? And you can play with the data any way you want to find simple answers to your questions. Essentially, what's the cost by function, seniority, region? These are the kind of informed decisions that we at Deal enable our customers to find answers to, because it's obviously something that's it's a pain point, and at larger scale, again, it just becomes really harder to manage. There's a slide here that I wanted to kind of share with the audience. It's very straightforward. I'm assuming that you have something like that within your organization, because that's usually what we come across, where there's HR, there's payroll, there's finance, and there's IT, but all of this is supposed to service the one and the same workforce. So we see that there's a huge benefit in having a remote first platform built for global companies such as Deal, because we allow you to have that level of visibility and ultimately control over your business. But in very practical terms, especially when you talk about technical teams, at some point you have to pay people for the work that they've done, for the deliverables that they've been able to deliver. And one of the things that our customers call out is the flexibility that we bring to them. So for example, you could have a developer who's working on a time and material basis, but for the next quarter, you would like to switch to a fixed time, for example, or milestone-based payments. That simple switch that gives you that flexibility is something that's usually missing, unless a company is already working with a global platform that allows that to happen. So we see a lot of interest in that very specific piece of the puzzle, which again has to do with servicing the same workforce, which is obviously the main core of any business. I think that's very important to say, that there's analytics that can be usually is visualized for you quite easily. Usually when we talk to people from the payroll side or from the finance side, everybody has their favorite spreadsheet that they love to hate, but none of it is put together. All of it is very much disjointed. So it's hard to automate anything, which means it's hard to surface data. It's hard to visualize data. That's a challenge that we love taking on for customers. And ultimately, we see a lot of added value there. And something which, again, is a simple thing. It's a hard question to answer, but simple things aren't always easy. So that's something that our platform really does deliver when it comes to the customer added value from a technical point of view. But I think ultimately what's way more interesting is not so much the technical point of view, but it's really the people perspective. So what does that mean for your employees, right? We just had a case a few weeks back where a customer of ours used our services to hire somebody in Germany. And of course, that person ran into a problem. They hadn't disclosed their upcoming paternity leave. So the customer didn't know how to handle this. The person in question didn't know how to handle this. Luckily and thankfully, they were using Deal already. So we have our built-in chatbot. People call it a chatbot. For me, it's a little consultant built into the tool that gives you answers to your questions. So from an employee experience perspective, you don't have to stress, because you can self-service. You can find an answer to your question on the platform directly. And if you're still unsure, there's a whole team of people surrounding you that can help you with answers to any kind of topics you may have questions about. That's one thing that we at Deal really cherish, is the ability to support you after you've become a customer of ours. So we have, regardless of which country you operate in, regardless of which country your workforce is based in, we have an in-country team that comprises usually of legal, is obviously HR. Sometimes there's permit questions, visa questions, benefit questions, insurance questions. We have people in country who can support those questions as they arise and as they come about. And that's very important, because at the end of the day, as global as you are, certain topics are very much depending on subject matter experts in country that have to be familiar with the law, with the rules and the regulations, and have to stay on top of them, because obviously these are moving parts. The fact that you're compliant today doesn't necessarily mean that you will be compliant next week. So that kind of continuous compliance piece is something that we really find value in and bringing to our customers. That kind of gives them more time to focus on running their business and asks less of them to focus on administration. So in a simple way, what you automate, the time you save on admin really allows you to manage your workforce. And if you put those things together, I think it ultimately leads to a happier workforce, which is quite important for two reasons. One is if you have an employee experience platform, you will probably be able to attract top talent because people care about the way a company is approaching them to employ them. And I'm talking about contract management, but also employees as such. At the end of the day, it's a pretty important part of the process. It's in a way, it's a sales process whereby these two parties are trying to convince each other that working together is beneficial to everybody. So for us, this piece is very, very important. We find a lot of value. We place a lot of value in making sure that you can attract top talent with a simple thing. For example, the benefits that we offer per country. So if you're talking about a global workforce, let's say 10 plus countries, they may be subject to different benefits depending on the country. That's something that we can bring together under the same roof, such that your HR person isn't overwhelmed. Nobody's asking them to become an expert in local HR law in 10 plus countries. That is not scalable. That is not feasible. We instead use our technology to support the HR teams and ultimately to support the workforce. And I think what I see as well is it prevents something. So it's usually not just what you bring to the table, but sometimes it's what's not on the table at all. And that's churn. So an employee that is able to find answers to their questions is always aware of the benefits that they're obliged, they're provided to them. That employee is probably going to have more time to focus on the tasks at hand. That usually leads to better performance, and ultimately that leads to less churn. Provided, of course, that you have a performance culture and you reward people for their effort and the quality of work that they put out. And that's in essence what we try to do. We believe in less admin, and we believe in making technology work for you. And we believe that sometimes technology doesn't have to be dull and ugly. It can also be pretty. It can also be aesthetically pleasing. And it can be something that benefits both the employer, but also the employees. And if you're keen to find out more, I think there's a QR code on the screen now. But if you feel like it's a lot of work to swipe down and scan a QR code, you can also just get in touch with Michal or just ping me a message, and we can take it from there.
Yeah, indeed. And there is also a link that I'll share in the comment section that people can just quickly click if they cannot take a photo of the QR code. So they can just quickly go to the website michaljuhas.com/deal, and they will be redirected also to this page. Awesome. I mean, I also have clients who use Deal. They are, for example, from the United States, and they employ people here in Czech Republic, Slovakia, in the Central Europe. And I couldn't really imagine that they would really learn about how it works here in Europe, right? The law is different. Yeah. Pretty much everything is different, right? Even the holidays, the taxation, the kind of everything. If you think about employment as such, right? So just taking care of everything through one platform totally makes sense, and that's why kind of to people who are watching us here, we offer this 10% discount for contractors and also full-time employees. So you guys take this opportunity to create the account quickly if you'd like, and you can also use it later. Of course, you can book a quick call with Ivan and the rest of the team. But there is also one question quickly that we should cover. That question was from Eugen, and he was asking you, Stano. So that's a quick question for you. He was asking who is involved in the recruitment and hiring process in your company. Are you the only decision maker? Which probably he overheard that the department that you manage already has 500 people. So hardly you could be the only decision maker. But really, how does it work in such a big organization?
Yeah, thank you for that question, and also I believe it's for Karol as well. So I guess it's probably for both of us. Long story short, just to be brief, there are like different processes for different roles. For the engineers, usually the team leader and somebody like technically skilled or some senior engineers are doing the interviews. For the higher roles, specifically like managerial position and so on, so more people being involved. It really depends on the technology, on the department or on the field of the expertise, and on the level of the seniority. Nevertheless, we try to like squeeze it to 3, maximum 4 sessions, having that as quick as possible to basically not prolong the process, because it might be very uncomfortable for both parties. It is taking too much time.
Yeah, you were actually right. I didn't notice this salutation. Also, hi, Carol. I just focused on hi, Stanislav in the comment. Not sure why. So, so Carol, also, what's your take on this? Are you the only decision maker? In your case, it will make sense, right? The department is 25 people, roughly 20, 25.
Yeah, a bit less. Yeah, that's actually a great question. So while I'm in charge, when it comes to hiring engineers, I'm in charge of like most of the process. I'm not the only decision maker here. So in general, we have 3 stages of the interview. I always take the first one, sometimes with shadowing session with the team leader of the team, like of whatever team that we are hiring at. So this is exclusively a technical discussion with some extra personality assessment. So if my take on like at that stage would be no, then we would stop the process. But if it's yes, then the interview is taken by either our CEO or COO, who conduct the more like a soft discussion about the culture fit and see if that would be like a great person that to work with. And for them, if it's yes, then we go to the third and the last stage. And if it's no, then we stop the process at that point. And the third stage is the interview with all the team members of a given team. So in the end, it's up to the team to decide if this is a person who would be a great fit for them. So actually, we have multiple decision makers, like depending on the stage.
Awesome.
You have democracy. That's nice. I'm envying this situation actually.
Yeah, because it's I think it's quite important also like for the team to be decision makers and make sure that we hire people who they would be like really comfortable working with and have like a amazing chemistry.
Awesome, cool, great. So we have about 15 people, 40 now connected on YouTube. So guys, feel free to ask questions if you have any, and we are here to respond. Just as a reminder, based on also what Ivan mentioned, there is this special offer. So you can just go to the website michaliuhas.com/deal, or go to the QR code, and you will be eligible for this 10% off, which is huge, or could be huge based on the team of your the size of your team. So yeah, so go to michaliuhas.com/deal or scan the QR code and ask questions while Ivan, Stano, and Karol are here. If you guys don't have any questions, we will wrap it up in a minute. Guys, before we go, what is your major kind of takeaway from what is going on now with all these AI tools and the madness, the craziness with generative AI? I'm just kind of thinking, because these things come in waves. I was just reading an article today about NFTs. That was a huge thing 2 years ago, and it feels like it disappeared completely. So what's your impression on some of these trends in technology, in the technology space? Is there anything that you have seen just fading out, or something that is popping up?
I mean,
So for me, in general,
do you want to go? Do you want to go for it? Just go for it. Go for it.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Yeah, so I'm personally very excited about the generative AI. Sometimes it's kind of like a mix of being like super excitement with the feeling that it's sometimes like kind of like a waste of time of dealing with it. And probably if I didn't try to use generative AI at all, I would get this done faster. So for whatever the cases where AI is great, it's really great, but for the cases where it's not that good, I mean, the performance is really terrible. I mean, we had to wait such a long time for ChatGPT to figure out how many hours are in the Strawberry. So I'm talking about O1 model. So currently it can answer the question correctly, but I think the intelligence of reasoning of PhD, it's really far-fetched, and this is really not the case unless you ask it for like 3 times if it's correct, and maybe it will just like add some missing answers and so forth. But when it comes to software engineering, I think it's really amazing for generating something that is kind of like self-contained component that you have like a great idea how it will work, and Claude is really amazing at generating this.
And actually, quick follow-up question, and then also Stano and Ivan, you can respond. But on this note, like, what do you think is the future of junior engineers? We were just talking about it with some people from boot camps that for the last 5 years organized quick training sessions. They got someone from the street just to learn basic coding, and then years ago companies were fighting for these juniors. Like, do we still need juniors now with all these AI advancements? Do you guys even consider hiring junior developers anymore? Stano.
So okay, I go and respond. Right now, I don't think we have open positions for that. Long term, definitely. That's something what need to change. Right now, it was more about the tactical decisions since we were doing a couple of transformations in the company. So it's good to control talent pool somehow. Long term, definitely, it would make sense. However, the juniors in the long term might not be the juniors as we are seeing now, or as we saw them, let's say, in the last couple of years. I think, and coming back to the AI, I think being equipped with the more skills would be crucial for people to find the proper space to work in the job market. In regards to AI, yes, it's making a lot of mistakes, but we as a people have tendency to always compare it to perfect human being, which is not doing any mistakes at all, and making everything from the first shot, and just like the saying of the true programmers, which are not using any frameworks and writing it directly on the servers to memory registers in the binary code. So I think AI is yet another tool. We need to learn how to use it, and this is becoming like a new era, right? As we had, I don't know, different programming languages like Fortran, COBOL, and somebody came up with the Python or Java or other languages. And yes, we can also discuss that, okay, it's not efficient, it's doing mistakes, and so on and so forth. But the business enablement, which it brings, is just huge, amazing. I think in foreseeable future, definitely in our lifetimes, we would see the IPO for 1 billion company, like unicorn company, having one person. I'm pretty sure it will happen with AI development as we can see it in the last months and years.
Wow, that could be huge. Even then, what about Deal? How do you guys take advantage of these recent advancements?
I mean, we like tinkering within our sandbox. So essentially, we like to minimize human error as much as possible. So there's a never-ending stream of new workflows and automation tools that we use. But we also believe in kind of core platforms that make our lives easier. So we use Slack for that purpose, to keep each other posted. And that's where I see a lot of automation. I suppose it kind of depends on the function here as well. So for me, my current remit, it's more heavily on business development and sales. Don't really think that AI is adding that much value there. I saw somebody trying to sell to me just a few weeks ago on LinkedIn, and they sent me a recording of themselves being interviewed by a sales agent, essentially a bot. And the argument was that they were so good that essentially the bot bought from them. Unfortunately for me, that doesn't meet any kind of benchmark that I'm interested in, because it's still human to human in sales for the foreseeable future, especially within B2B. Yeah. One day that may change, and maybe that day comes, it's just around the corner, perhaps. I'm not sure. But for the time being, we use AI as a tool. We're the way around.
Yeah, awesome. Well, and there is also one person on our end who uses AI quite a lot, and that's Barbara. So you Barbara, use ChatGPT every day. You are a big fan of it, so I couldn't resist to bring it here.
Hi, everyone. Yes. What is the question?
Yeah, like what it is like to be augmented this way, because a year ago you were not using ChatGPT. Now you use it every day. to create posts, to create content, to organize things. So it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yes, I am super lucky that I can use it. It's very
Awesome.
helpful.
Cool. So on this positive note, I guess we can slowly wrap it up, everyone. So thanks for joining. Thanks, Stano, Karol, and Ivan for joining us live on both YouTube and LinkedIn. We will have a recording for everyone who couldn't join us now live. And I hope to see you guys soon again.
Thanks
for
everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Yeah, thank you. See you soon. Bye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.